In order to be successful, we really have to think about how to guide our users. We grew up as OCI really targeting the developer, a technical user, and we need to think differently about our product development. We need to think more about that finance persona and making things easier and making it a guided journey. So things like our FinOps Hub, which launched in June right before FinOps X in San Diego, are our first steps towards that.
This presentation is just an appetizer, okay? I will explore this topic in more details on my talk on FinOps XE Barcelona this November. And I'm very excited, not only because of the presentation, but because of all the conversations that this is going to spark. And then meanwhile, I'm honored to announce that the CPI has been added to the FinOps Foundation KPI page. You see that on the next slide. You can go there right now and you will see how it's calculated, the description and all of this. You can get a grasp of how this is look like, and I'm more than glad to get to keep going on the discussions.
We want to bring our own license as a policy as we build those applications and deploy them to the cloud environment. So how do we realize that is to put those policy as a code in the CI/CD pipeline for all of the cloud application deployment processes. And this essentially, prevent additional license overrun from our environment. This is like millions of dollars of savings for us.
Good morning, folks. We are just opening up the waiting room as people are streaming in. We'll be getting started in just a minute. This is your friendly public service reminder on a Thursday morning to just take a minute, take a deep breath. It's going to be a busy day, or has been, I'm sure, for a lot of you who are later in the time zones than I am. My name is J.R. Storment. I'm Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation, dialing in from overcast San Diego, California today, and really excited to welcome you to our, I almost said October FinOps Foundation Summit. The FinOps Foundation Summits are kind of the beating heart of what we do. We've been doing these all the way back since 2019, most months of the year. I think we do 8 or 9 a year now. In just a minute, we're going to kick off into the content, some things and reminders for all of you. This is not meant to be a webinar. This is a community call. You're going to hear from a lot of different people in the community. We would love for you to have your camera on, whether or not you're speaking. We would love for you to drop comments in the chat, regardless of your role. At the end, there'll be a chance for you to all unmute and have conversations and ask questions. Remember, in the chat or at the end, a couple things. Don't share confidential information. Please don't do any sales pitches. Share knowledge and learnings instead. And definitely keep your thoughts brief and thoughtful so you continue to be respectful of others and their ideas. This summit is something that in a very timely way, we're getting a lot of questions about lately. At the FinOps Foundation, FinOps X event in San Diego, we unveiled this idea of cost-aware product decisions. A lot of people think of this as shift left FinOps or moving the cost considerations of FinOps earlier on into the product design process. Very critical word here is product design process. This is not just about, should we think about cost when we start architecting our cloud? We want to start thinking about cost when we're designing our products, figuring out what we even are going to build, where we're going to build it, or what features we're going to include. And that's what we're going to dig into today. Our speakers will cover a whole spectrum and range of these topics. We'll have Wallace from SAP, we'll have Erik Peterson from CloudZero, Lisa Black from Oracle Cloud, and Anderson Oliveira from AXA, talking about different angles of how cost is moving earlier on into the product design process. For those of you who are new to the FinOps Foundation or one of these events, as I mentioned at the beginning, for those of you joining, I'm J.R. Storment, Executive Director of the FinOps Foundation. The Foundation is a nonprofit trade association. We're a program of the Linux Foundation, and we're here to advance the people who manage the value of cloud. Right now, there's about 26,000 practitioners in the community. When we started this in 2019, there were about 26. So it's been a lot of growth in FinOps land in the last 5 years or so. And we're focused on helping you who are doing this work through community and connections, things like this summit, things like our in-person events, things like our Slack, that there's now almost 10,000 people in. Education, certification, trainings, learnings, mentorship, all the information out there to help you get better at your job. And then the third area is best practices and standards. The anchor of that is the FinOps framework, which many of you know. In addition, we now have projects like the Focus, Open Cost, and Usage specification that are out there to help make the data of FinOps better. As I mentioned, we're a membership-based trade association, what's a 501c6 for those of you here in the US. And our staff, which I'll introduce at the very end, works out of about 7 countries. We're a fully remote team supporting this community, and we're about 30 people that bring all these programs to you. So we are just a few weeks away, that's stressful to say, from FinOps X Barcelona, FinOps X Europe, rather, in Barcelona. This conference is just about to sell out. We're coming up, heading toward that 800 attendee mark. And it's going to be some really phenomenal content there. We'll talk a little bit about what's coming in that later, but please consider, if you haven't already, last minute trip to Barcelona, whether you're near or far, and let us know how we can help as part of that. There's a couple rooms left at the hotel. Best experience is to stay at the hotel if you can. One of the other things that's about to happen, this was almost a triple launch day today. One of those launches that we're getting ready to do is the State of FinOps survey. This will be the 4th year, keep me honest, 4th or 5th year that we've done this survey. And this is for all of you in the community to share what's happening in your practice, in your company, to help everyone else understand how they can benchmark, their maturities, how they can understand priorities, how they can understand how FinOps is expanding into other areas beyond cloud. There's questions on AI. Can you believe it? There's questions on AI. There's questions on cloud sustainability, and this topic that we're covering today. So watch for your inboxes and in Slack and LinkedIn and all the places for this landing in a couple days. We're going to be collecting data on the State of FinOps. Typically, I think it's going to run near the end of the year. So you've got a little bit of time to complete the survey. It's about 15 minutes. Please do it to give back to the community because this data helps everybody. Big shout out and thank you to our Technical Advisory Council. This is the group that owns the FinOps framework. So they are now in discussions for the next phases of the FinOps framework. Every year they look at the latest updates from the community. They look at what we're learning at the conferences. We bring in different themes and topics and see what improvements need to be made to advance the framework year over year and evolve that to match the community's growth. And we're very excited each time we announce a new premier member as part of the membership program that FinOps Foundation has. We're very excited to announce that Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, who has been a general member of the foundation for a while, has now become a premier member of the FinOps Foundation. And we want to take a couple of minutes to welcome and introduce them. This is a big moment because we now have all the major cloud providers together operating in the same way at the same level in the FinOps Foundation, supporting the community. And Oracle is going to be a great addition to this, both in terms of interacting with the Focus project, interacting with the community, and hopefully interacting more heavily at our future FinOps X events as well. So I want to take a minute to do quick introductions for the team that is on the call. You probably recognize some of these folks from some of our events. Phil Newman, VP there, was in a keynote panel for us a few years back, sharing about how they're supporting FinOps in the various projects. So Phil, can you take a minute to introduce yourself and we'll pass to your team?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Phil Newman. It's good to see those of you that I've seen before again. And we're very excited to be here. So I'll pass it on to Nick and Lisa.
Yeah, great to be here. Super excited to be part of this thing. Relatively new to the team, new to the space, coming up to speed. Yeah, this is obviously a growing and exciting community, and I'm really looking forward to being part of it.
Thank you, Nick. Lisa.
Yeah, I'm a senior director of product strategy, and I've been a part of the OCI core platform team for about 4 years. Prior to that, I have about 5.5 years of Oracle SaaS experience. And within my product portfolio are the cost management tools that we offer to our external customers, but also the tools and the support that we provide for our internal FinOps practice.
So one of the things that we invited the team to do, which we are now starting in a series for all the major cloud conferences, is to share a few minutes about the Oracle Cloud World Conference, which happened in September, if I'm not mistaken, and share some of the updates from there that happened in Vegas recently. So yeah, back to you, Lisa.
Yeah, so every year we host, Oracle hosts our annual conference. I think it's about 60,000 people, lots of different work streams. As I'm sure you can imagine, AI was a hot topic. But this year, I felt that FinOps was also a big topic. We had a number of different sessions on FinOps. If you want to go to the next slide, and we can talk about some of the takeaways that we had from the event. So on the first day, I was able to be on a panel with one of our large customers as well as a managed service provider. And then from my perspective, the product development perspective. And what I think was most interesting about that talk and what permeated throughout the event in terms of FinOps takeaways was, yep, AI, it's cool, it's a nice to have. But there's still a lot of work ahead of us with regards to nailing the basics, things like a tagging strategy and data hygiene. And those are often a lot harder to accomplish and do well than being at the run phase. So that definitely was a theme that permeated with the customers that we engaged with. And like I said, in the sessions and the panel that I was on. And I see somebody making a comment, tagging our, yes, everybody, the bane of everybody's existence, tagging. The other thing is, it came across pretty loudly and clearly that a cultural shift needs to happen, meaning in order to be successful, we really have to think about how to guide our users. We grew up as OCI really targeting the developer, a technical user, and we need to think differently about our product development. We need to think more about that finance persona and making things easier and making it a guided journey. So things like our FinOps Hub, which launched in June, right before FinOps X in San Diego, are our first steps towards that. Then things that I think, we've spent a lot of time thinking about our commercial customers, but this is just as important in regulated industries. So that also, I think, gave us a new lens on how to think about this space where they have fixed budget projects, and the way that they manage and the way they think about their spending in cloud is different than maybe our commercial customers. And last but not least, we had participants who were highly engaged. So compared to last year at Cloud World, I would say that, it felt like there was a lot more buzz about it this year. And even on the last day, our second session was on the last day, right before everybody leaves. We had a packed room of about 75 or 80 people, and they were staying to ask questions after. So it was really encouraging to see that. Thanks, JR.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing how things evolve there. I know everybody is going to be excited for another trip to Vegas, as that seems to be the place where all the cloud conferences happen now. And it's interesting to see that trajectory, as you said. I mean, I was at Cloud World, not this year, but last year, and started to see the FinOps buzz start to happen. It's great to see that it increased this year, and hopefully we'll see that continue to play forward in both the content and community there as well. And excited to welcome, obviously Oracle to the foundation. Last year, they announced their focus I keep saying last year, but 2024 FinOps X, San Diego, June, they announced their focus support for the focus project right before the conference. And hopefully in the future, we can welcome them to do that at the conference. So great to have you all plugged in. So the FinOps Foundation Governing Board is the group that essentially helps drive the industry direction strategy for where the FinOps Foundation invests its membership and training funds. So this group invests in things like our staff to make sure we can run these programs and make sure that we can run these summits, the FinOps X conference, just figuring out when we want to fund additional training work, or when we want to fund things like the Focus Project and staff to support that as well. So each time we try and find opportunities to highlight these people. They're a mix of senior FinOps practitioners at enterprises and government. They include, senior product leaders from platform companies in the space. They include product leaders from all the clouds now, all 4 clouds sit on here, as well as senior practice leaders and manager directors from GSIs and service providers. So it's a great group who kind of represents the whole ecosystem of the FinOps Foundation and FinOps area. In a minute, we're going to hear from one of those. I mentioned, sorry, the slides are slightly out of order than I expected, my fault. Another cloud conference coming up that we are starting to recruit attendance for is we will be having an event at the AWS reInvent conference coming up. This is 2 weeks after FinOps X Europe. So just first week in December. 2 things to call out. We will have an evening event that is our typical FinOps Foundation networking, right? Which is practitioners and member SMEs, very, curated audience to be, those doing the practice. We're trying something new this year. In the morning, we are opening up a breakfast and keynote watch party to anybody in the FinOps Foundation community. Whether you're doing FinOps or not, could be in at one of the vendors in a marketing or sales or any role. We want to provide a real community place for everybody to come together there. And then later events will be practitioner focused throughout the day. Cool thing about this is we will have I think most of the AWS product team that touches FinOps related items there at that event. So definitely reserve a spot for that. And wanted to give a quick update before we get into other announcements and information from the cost-aware product decisions on the Focus project. We're going to be having a launch for this coming up at the X Europe event. And I wanted to introduce all of you to, I think, the newest member of our team, Sean Alpe, recently joined the FinOps Foundation in the last few weeks as one of our full-time folks who is helping us really build out the Focus specification from within the working group. So Sean is taking over the working group chair role from Udam Dewaraja, who you would have seen at FinOpsX last year. He's been a maintainer in the group for quite a while, and he's helping, I say this very kindly, herd the cats of all the development efforts that need to work and happen. So he'll be coordinating closely with the Focus steering committee that Mike Fuller chairs as well, and wanted to welcome Sean for a few minutes to share some updates of the coming release on 1.1. Sean, welcome.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, so I've been a part of Focus for the last year, so the onboarding to the FinOps Foundation has been very smooth, and I'm excited to continue the good work that we've all started, that Udam was stewarding before me. So we're going to talk about the specification that we have been working on and will be released next month, the 1.1 version of the Focus specification. So if you imagine at the top there, those Focus data sets that are currently supported by the cloud service providers, imagine the 1.1 specification enhancements that will come next month when we announce that at FinOps XE. What we wanted to focus on is take the existing specification and just continue to expand its capability. So we've added 7 new columns that will expand that functionality. We've added some improvements to the metadata, so it'll be a little easier to consume Focus data sets. And then we've added some clarification to some of the existing columns with some normative updates. So the specification will be ratified and announced next month. We have completed work on 1.1. Now we're moving on to the next release. But yes, it will be announced next month. So let's go to the next slide. This is just an overview of the existing specification with the new 7 columns that are in yellow. We're not going to go over all these, but just know that we have added 7, and we'll talk about them more in detail next month. Just for example's sake, I wanted to drill into one of them, the one on the bottom right there, service subcategory. We could spend a long time talking about any of these. We've added functionality for commitment discounts and capacity reservations and SKU details. But let's just talk about service subcategory just as a sample platter for where we're taking this version of the spec. So the idea behind service subcategory is that we had a service category column before. So you're categorizing all your services. So you had service category, let's say AI and machine learning, compute, database, networking. And then if you built a report and you drilled on that, you just go down to all the services, which is good, but we wanted to extend that functionality by adding a level in between. So now you have a 3-level hierarchy. So you'd have category and then subcategory that tells you groupings within that category, and then finally service. The idea here is that we're telling the story from a higher level. Perhaps the executive is asking the question of, like, where is my cost coming from? And we can tell them the story right now with 1.0 of, okay, it's this amount's coming from networking and this amount's coming from web. But what about one level down without getting all the way down to the nitty gritty? So that's the idea of just telling a higher level story of groupings. Now, does that get us to the promised land in terms of what the engineer might want? No. We're going to extend the Focus spec over time to add stuff like SKU categorizations, but this is service subcategorizations. So let's go to the next slide. The idea here is that from the left-hand side, you've got your categories, as I mentioned, compute, developer tools, etc. Imagine we want to know more about compute. Like I said before, with Focus 1.0, we would jump all the way over to the right. We would just jump down to a whole list of services. But now we can facilitate going in compute, going to telling the story of containers, end user computing, quantum compute, serverless, virtual machines. This list is normalized, which is to say that we spent a lot of time and effort across the various members of the focus project group to decide across the various providers that are providing data and the ones that will provide data in the future. What are some categories, subcategories that would be applicable for your multi-provider story? So as a practitioner, you can depend on these being the same from one provider to the next, whether you're gluing together you're pulling AWS data or Google Cloud data or what have you. These subcategories will be the same across them. So from virtual machines, just in this example, you can then drill down and you can see, okay, within virtual machines, I've got AWS EC2, I've got Azure Virtual Machines, I have GCP Compute Engine. The idea is that virtual machines is the kind of genericized bucket for those. And if you're telling a multi-provider story in your organization as a practitioner, they're all going to be in the same bucket. So obviously practitioners are doing this, vendors are doing this today, but we really wanted to have a central place to tell that story so that you can consume this list. Go to the next slide and I'll show you an eye chart of every single subcategory. I'm not expecting you to look at this in detail, but I just want to tell the high level story that for every category, we've defined a handful of subcategories. And this is in the spec and you'll be able to review this in detail. But for AI and machine learning, we have AI platforms, bots, Gen AI, etc. So that for every single category, we have defined at least one subcategory, if not several, that you can then tell, again, the 3-level hierarchy story of category, subcategory, and then down to service. So this is just a little bit of a deep dive on this particular column. We could talk about this for any of those columns, and we will at XE. We'll be in the breakout sessions, we'll be talking about each of these columns in detail. So go ahead and go to the next slide. I just wanted to finish by talking about how you can get involved with Focus. If any of this piques your curiosity and you want to get involved, there's, I think, 3 kind of channels to get involved. One is you're curious about Focus. We have a channel called Chat Focus in the Slack. Please join, open to everybody. Join the Focus community calls, and you could take the Intro to Focus course, which is free. If you want to start using Focus, go turn on your Focus data sets for your cloud providers. You can join the Focus user group, where we talk about future functionality and existing functionality within Focus. And then there's a certified Focus analyst course you can take. If you want to make Focus better, please join the Focus project. We love having people join. You can help define requirements, design, data validation. You can help improve the use case library and many other things. We would love your participation. So that's it on Focus. And then I'll take the next slide as well. We have some new working group assets that are in support of this. We've got a Gen AI cost and usage tracker. Again, you can go to finops.org/assets to consume these. We've added some playbooks to some of the KPIs. And then on the right there, we have a one sheet talking about how to adopt Focus. So if you're interested in any of those and more, go to that URL. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Sean, and welcome to the team. It's good to have another person in Portland, Oregon. And clarifying point, we'll have at the end, we'll have time for discussion, and Sean can hopefully stick around to answer some more questions. Focus is heading toward the 1.1 release right now, because it's an open source specification that has IP reviews that has to happen to make sure it's safe for everyone to adopt and all that stuff. It's in that consistency review and IP review period right now, which is a window of time in which we make sure that everything is set, and then at the end, the Focus Steering Committee will essentially formally approve and ratify the release, and will say it's ready for public consumption. That is targeted to happen the week of the Barcelona conference at FinOps Europe. If you want to follow along, as Rob posted in the chat, you can check the GitHub where active work is happening. And as always, I'd love to give a shout out to the people involved. Focus Steering Committee right now is 7 seats. The governing board is extending it to 9 seats, so there'll be additional folks joining that. And then the Focus Maintainers Group is about 10 plus people. We're meeting 4 to 5 days a week for 90 to 120 minutes to push this forward, sort of in addition to their day jobs. So these people are doing a ton of work on Focus, as well as 100 other contributors from the space. So definitely hug your friendly local maintainers, DIRCO member, and contributor for Focus whenever you get to see them. A lot of the work we do is to help bring together all the practitioners and all the vendors in the ecosystem. Always want to thank our premier vendor members and our premier enterprise members of the foundation. These are folks who sit on our governing board and help us, as I said, direct the funds of where we're going to invest in the community. and help us figure out where FinOps needs to go. We're talking about the expansion of the industry and the definition right now at our most recent governing board meeting, and how FinOps is starting to touch into things like SaaS and other types of spend. On each of these, we tend to bring in a senior SME from their team who's working in this area directly so they can contribute to the conversations and process. And as part of today's presentation, I wanted to welcome Wallace Suleiman from SAP, who's a vice president of multi-cloud engineering, has been in the FinOps space for a long time, and is building out some pretty interesting things there at SAP in this area. So over to you, Wallace.
All right. Thank you, JR. Hello, everyone. Maybe just a slide forward. Yes, thank you. So I want to talk about SAP's experience of cost awareness in bringing cost awareness in our product lifecycle. And just for the audience who are not familiar with what we're talking about, I want to set a little context here. We've come from using a lot of the cloud cost management. We're building some of those ourselves for the past few years. And oftentimes, these tools provide, whether it's providing transparency or provide cost recommendation, cost reduction recommendations, or detect cost anomaly. A lot of those tools are helping at the time of as an aftermath, right? Typically, this is when you got your cloud bill from your cloud service provider a month after, or even a few months after. Your controller work with your ops team and look at, oh, what happened to my cloud bill? Why is my cost shooting up to the roof? Or why are we have a decreasing cloud margin and so on, right? Typically, these things happen as an aftermath, and it is really not ideal situation, especially when you are challenged by your controllers or your ops team about what can be done with it as an aftermath. A lot of these tools we have in place have done a great job of providing cloud cost transparency, especially to the controlling team, to your ops people, or when you're doing your portfolio planning for the next fiscal cycles and so on, right? But how do we bring that closer to our developers who actually are spending the money in the cloud and who are actually using this on a day-to-day basis? So this is the challenge where we have seen in our world, because a lot of those tools we use internally for our application teams. What we feel is we haven't done enough to bring these tools closer to the developers, to the DevOps teams, by providing pinpoint data or information that they can act on a daily basis, right? On a regular basis. As we look at how cloud app development is done today, SAP is a software company, so we build a lot of we bring a lot of workload to the cloud to deliver to our customers, all the way from discovery, design to budgeting and planning for the project for the next fiscal cycles, to the actual development and deployment activities, and to the maintenance and run and operation cycles and customer supports. There are different tools we introduced over the time, but we felt that there are as I mentioned earlier, there's gaps to what we have done. One click forward. So as I don't want to read all the text here, but a lot of the gaps has contributed to aftermath discoveries rather than something that we can do ahead of the game, right? We have, for instance, a tool called Cost Estimator that we introduced for estimating the cost, and it has been proving very useful in our migration project. We had migrated a lot of the workload from on-prem development environment or deployment environment to public cloud. This has become very interesting in terms of estimating the cost on different platforms, right? And we've also been doing a lot of the demand capacity management in our cycles to determine how much that trajectory would look like. But the actual cost details and the optimization, potentials due to underutilization as part of those migration cycles hasn't been really detected only until many, many months after, right? Next slide, please. So what we're thinking about doing is to introduce more capabilities through these tools that either we built in-house or acquired by introducing more developer relevant context or application relevant context. For instance, we start to introduce the bill of materials based on application landscapes into the cost estimator tool, right? And we're also start to making those capabilities from the get-go when the developer starts, when the application team starts to design and plan for their development lifecycle. How much is it going to cost me ahead of the game, right? So instead of just waiting for the bills coming afterwards, we can already have the ability to estimate how much this will cost you going forward. I want to use AI, Gen AI application development as one example. One click forward, please. As we are doing a lot of the Gen AI application development these days, this is a brand new breed of applications we're introducing to our app portfolio, right? We're adding capabilities, Gen AI capabilities to our app portfolio. We see this as an opportunity because we already have many, many applications deployed in the cloud today, but Gen AI capabilities are something new. We see the opportunity to work with our application teams by introducing this cost-aware capabilities early in their development and planning cycles. Using the cost estimation tool that we have as one example, we have built a very comprehensive Gen AI application model with the help of a couple of folks from our cloud providers such as Google. We were able to provide those accurate forecast and estimation on how much this will cost them from the get-go. So this will not become a aftermath guesstimate or a surprise after the application is deployed. People already know, working with their controllers, how much this is going to cost them from the get-go of the application, right? Another example I want to give is also we have a lot of applications that we're deploying to the cloud, and usually they deploy whether it's Red Hat license or SUSE license. Since we have already an enterprise agreement with those OS license providers, we do not need to or want to purchase those licenses from the cloud providers as such. We want to bring our own license as a policy as we build those applications and deploy them to the cloud environment. So how do we realize that is to put those policy as a code in the CI/CD pipeline for all of the cloud application deployment processes. And this essentially prevent the additional license overrun from our environment. This is like millions of dollars of savings for us, right? And additional things that we wanted to introduce is to really provide the real-time transparency in our cost optimization tool in regards to the utilization, performance metrics information to the application instances that are running the cloud environment. That information is being actively fed to the application teams in the what we call a FinOps hub. Similar to a lot of the hub concepts out there. But what we are doing is to enable the not only the controlling the finance personas, but also the DevOps personas to have a concentrated view of their KPIs, such as utilization, and there is a central control tower we can enable, or we'll continue to enable these personas to act on it. So this is, of course, a kind of a work in progress. We're basically trying to bring all of these tools and capabilities closer to the DevOps persona. And this is the key where the penetration of the cost awareness can be made a habit, right? Behavioral habit to all the DevOps engineers. We really wanted to see the FinOps or FinOps practice to become similar to a DevSecOps, practice that is already practiced everywhere in the enterprise environment. This is something that with the tool, with the help of the practice in these transparencies, in these tools, we can make it happen. More closely, bring this more closely to our developer communities. That's it from me. Thank you.
Awesome, Wallace. It's great to see this play out in real life. I think a lot of the conversations historically that we've seen around the shifting left went from, I'm going to launch my thing and do FinOps after it's in production. It shifted left to, I'm going to look at FinOps and cost while it's in development. And that's often where the conversation, as far left as it went. And I think what's really great in your view here, and we heard people at the X conference in San Diego talking about, we're hearing in Barcelona as well, is that this is going earlier into ideation and design. So it's not, we've decided what we're going to build, how we're going to price it, what the product is, now make it cost effective. It's like, how do we start to look at the actual features, the actual delivery of that, the value to the customer ahead of time. So this is a great example applied to AI, and looking forward to seeing this built out as you go. There were a couple questions that came in. We'll save for Wallace to the end. For those of you in the DC, Virginia, larger area, we're going to be there next week. I'm flying out from San Diego. There's 5 or 6 of our team that's going to be there as well, and about 100 FinOps practitioners who are getting together in a cool little venue about 2 or 3 blocks from the White House, and for a full day of talks and content, networking lunch with some familiar names and faces in the FinOps community there on the screen. We'd love to see you there, whether you're a private sector or public sector. There'll be a mix of both, and a really good day of FinOps conversation, and in a way that, like, in person, the Zooms are great, we get to chat, but in person is lovely. So please join that next week if you'd like. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Next topic we wanted to share was from a long time, also FinOps Foundation participant. Anderson has been at a few different companies doing FinOps, has contributed to a lot of working groups, has been a regular face in the Slack, helping answering questions. And one of the topics he's going to touch on, which I really like, a constant question is, okay, so we've figured out how to do FinOps, or that we need to do it. How do we prove the value of these things back to executives? What are the right types of KPIs for business leaders to show that? And propose a few starting places for that to get you helping advance that practice in your organization. So Anderson, over to you.
All right. Thanks for the warm welcome, JR. Looking forward to see you again in Europe on the FinOps X. And for all of you that are here, I'm very happy to be here and talk to you about this topic that is very close to my heart, because I've been thinking about this for a long time. Is there a process or something that we could show the value of what we are doing, especially because FinOps sometimes has become a synonym of cost saving. Although cost saving is important, that's not exactly the point. The point is the value. So how do we measure that? All right. So if we go to the next slide, the objective here is to show that it is possible to have one simple KPI that encompasses business value and budget adherence. As I said, FinOps is all about business value. And on my personal impression is that there is much being said over there on cost saving side, which count positively on the profitability equation. But as long as the low-hanging fruits are harvested, more work will be required to obtain the same level or even lower of savings. Maybe we as a community are not there yet, but for sure, many companies that are on the FinOps journey for a while will need to switch gears from cost savings to value delivery. And in order to measure and track the value delivery of an organization, this talk aims to present a metric that helps on keeping track on budget and on the degree of value delivery. On the next slide, you can see here the picture that represents the leadership. So the audience that I want to address are the one characterized by the leadership persona. Not much has been shared out there lately about this persona. As a technical, I've been technical for a long time. We tend to keep focus on the tech part of the FinOps, but we should not forget that our leaders, they are important too. They are part of this engine. They are just as part of FinOps as the other personas. The leader job is to decide. Let's keep always that in mind. Leaders are normally busy people. They need to juggle between many variables, many balls on the air to decide what is best for the organizations. For leaders, information is gold. Information is the instrument that enables them to make better decisions, informed decision, as we like to say. A big plus if the information is easy to grasp and easy to understand. So moving next, can we have a FinOps indicator that encompasses business value and budget adherence, as the objective of FinOps is to focus on value? Can we have that? So that's the purpose of or the proposal that we are putting out in here. And the name of this KPI is called Cost Performance Indicator. So moving forward, the Cost Performance Indicator is helps organization to assess whether their cloud spending aligns with the value delivered. And here is where we need to start having this conversation about the value. Okay, cost is easy to understand, but value is not that easy. So assuming that we have grasped that, the CPI tends to be like this. It's if it's equal 1, or if it's above 1 or below 1. And I will tell in a moment what they mean. But before, a little bit of a background, the CPI comes from Earned Value Management. Any project manager here on the call here? So it's a financial analysis specialty primarily studied the United States government back in the 60s. The United States government required contractors to implement EVMS, Earned Value Management System. And it has been like this since, and it becomes significant branch of project management and cost engineering. Many research has been done since then, and it shows that EVM has a strong positive influence on project success. And implementations of EVM can be scaled to fit projects of all sizes. And input for that, and it fits, in my opinion, very clearly and nicely on the quantify business value domain that we have that on the other slide, which we will need the marketing, the planning, estimating. One more slide, please. The next one, I guess. So I want to talk, yeah, that one, thank you. You need to have the planning, budgeting, have a serious discussion about unit economics, and here's where the leaders needs to get in and define and help the definition. And the output is that this index will help you do benchmarking and forecasting. So one more click, please. CPI should be as simple as if it equals 1, business value is as expected compared to what was budgeted. If it's above 1, business value is higher compared to the budget cloud cost. And if it's lower, the value is lower compared to what has been budgeted. This presentation is just an appetizer, okay? I will explore this topic in more details on my talk on FinOps XE Barcelona this November. And I'm very excited, not only because of the presentation, but because of all the conversations that this is going to spark. And then meanwhile, I'm honored to announce that the CPI has been added to the FinOps Foundation KPI page. You see that on the next slide. You can go there right now and you will see how it's calculated, the description and all of this. You can get a grasp of how this is look like, and I'm more than glad to keep going on the discussions. And if you wanted to get in touch with me to talk more about this, on the next slide, we will be displayed here my LinkedIn profile. I also have a blog where I write specifically about FinOps, and I try to share what's going on my journey, what I have learned, and share with the community. You're more than welcome to go there. Let's keep up the conversation, and looking forward to see all of you in Barcelona in November. Thanks all.
Anderson, thank you for that. I'm not sure if y'all were tracking the chat. Can talk, I promise. But Anderson also did a FinOps podcast with Joe Daly and the team some months back, and he was very open and honest about some career challenges he was facing and had to change roles, and his previous role was no longer an option. And you know, we watched him through that journey, then spring back into this great position at AXA, which is, you know, one of the largest insurance companies in Europe. So it's cool to see your transition through this and growth in the career. And as Anderson mentioned, he's going to go into more detail in this talk. This is sort of a preview of his FinOps X Barcelona talk. You can see there, but even if you can't make it there, the full talk after he gives it in Barcelona will be on our YouTube a couple weeks after the actual event. So stay tuned for that. Check out the information on the indicator on the KPIs, and maybe check out his podcast. Thanks, Anderson.
Thank you.
So all of these topics we've been covering fall into what we're calling cost-aware product decisions. This is, you could colloquially say, shift left FinOps. But the idea is we're not just getting it earlier in the development stream, we're getting it all the way to the beginning of figuring out what products we're going to build, how, when, where, why, what features, etc. So we're happy to, the second launch for today is that we launched a piece this morning on the FinOps Insights journal, which talks about the concept of cost-aware product decisions. That just went out early this morning, led by Ruben Vanderstock, Rob Martin, and Basilio Marcanastasakis on that to essentially outline what this looks like out there and provide some examples of the impacts of doing this earlier on in the process. So please go read that, give feedback on it. This is a theme that we're going to continue to explore and go deeper on in the coming months. The next topic we wanted to cover is about cloud cost visibility and allocation to drive better product decisions. You see the theme here, product decisions. So with that, wanted to welcome another longtime FinOps Foundation member. And gosh, Erik may have more FinOps Foundation Summit joins than almost anybody else over the last couple of years. Erik joined our governing board as part of CloudZero, joining the FinOps Foundation as a premier member, and he's a great thought leader in the space. Erik, welcome back to the summit, and over to you.
Thank you, JR. Always a pleasure to engage with this community. I continue to talk to literally everyone I meet when I'm out on the road. Have you spent some time just participating in this amazing thing called the FinOps Foundation? The conversations that we have, the community feel, everything about this has always been one of the greatest communities I think that I've ever joined in my entire career. And It's a testament that we all come together every month to listen to these presentations. So hats off to everyone here. I really want to celebrate the folks that are on the call today. And in fact, that's what a lot of my presentation is about. I want us to think a little bit about, of course, the future. I want us to think a little bit about imagining a world where we can understand, very much in line with what we just were enjoying in the earlier presentation, around how we think about these things in terms of delivering value and building efficient, profitable software. I think a lot of people have heard me say that every engineering decision is a buying decision. It's certainly the engineers who are driving so much of this, and they are key to the positive economics of the companies that we're building. So imagine a world where finance is tied into that process, customer success, revenue, product, engineering, all of the various functions of your business are all connected under one banner or one world of common metrics that help them understand how they're delivering value. What is the cost to do the thing that it is that we do? What is it that we exist to build, and how are we serving our customers and serving ourselves as we're building great companies on the cloud? I deeply believe that the cloud is truly the most economical way to drive value to whatever market you're serving. But if we don't understand the economics of this, then we are perhaps never going to fully realize the true power. I see FinOps and the work that we're doing here at CloudZero as essential to this dream of everything operating in the cloud. So I want you to think about this world. And to do that, I want to give you a concept of how what I think board conversations, business conversations are going to evolve in the future. You know, how do we get to this future, this world that we're imagining, where cloud operations is part of the very fabric of optimizing our business? So I want to start with just an image of a potential future that we might live in. For many of us who started in the FinOps space or started just thinking of DevOps, sometimes we get a little bit into the weeds and we spend a lot of time thinking about what we're spending on EC2 or S3 or BigQuery. It's not about that. We should be thinking about the profitability of our business. We should be thinking about the efficiency of our business. And in order to get at that, I want everyone to think about a number of metrics and how they come together. And specifically, I want to talk about this from the point of view of some of our customers and what they have envisioned, because this is what's driven us to think about how we might think about these things in the future differently than the traditional metrics. So the first one I want to talk about here is what we've seen with HighRadius and focusing on cloud efficiency rate. This is a very simple metric around revenue minus cloud cost divided by revenue. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that. But what was the objective here, right? HighRadius wanted to understand how they could overall improve the efficiency of their business and track that in a very simple metric that drove them to think about the amount of dollars they were spending against the money they were bringing in. And that's what cloud efficiency rate brought them. And it's a key metric that I would like to see in this board deck of the future, everyone thinking about what is your cloud efficiency rate and how are we tracking that over time? And we've seen other customers like Wise and Nubank also embrace this and make it part of their overall operational cadence. Now, there's more metrics that we can think about in the future. On the next slide, we've got a focus in on unit costs, right? What is our cost per daily active user? Or what is our cost for whatever it is that we focus on as a business? For those who came to hear the talk that I had the great pleasure of standing side by side with Vitor at Duolingo, we talked a lot about the cost per daily active user and how that's a key metric for how Duolingo manages their engineering priorities across their whole business. That daily active user cost is a key metric for how they make decisions, a key metric for how they prioritize the engineering work they're doing, how their business thinks about bringing new products and services to market. And it is something that they talk about from the board all the way down. It unifies this idea that we're democratizing the concepts of FinOps, not just to the individual engineers or outside of finance, but really to the entire business to build a more optimized business itself. And we've seen customers like Miro and Haya also embrace this. Many customers have come to CloudZero to talk about unit costs and unit economics. It's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about. There's more metrics that we can fit into this future. And I want to highlight another customer and what they were trying to achieve. In this case, I want to talk a little bit about drift, how they were trying to understand what was the most costly features within their system. So in other words, cost per feature. Each team was building different components within their environment. And it was difficult when looking at the overall cloud spend to understand, well, how are these products connected to the bottom line? Internally, they actually started a project within the engineering team. They called it the COGS Hunters. They wanted to get very, very particular about the specific features. And they had 4 engineers working on specifically how they could optimize individual feature costs. They found the most expensive feature, and that focused them to save money and build a more profitable solution. SmartBear and Upstart are also great examples of where they've embraced this concept and taken a deep look at how the costs are associated with individual services or features that their engineering teams are building. Now, there's a little bit more to this story. I want to kind of wrap up on what probably is the most important point, which is not just how do we, but how do you get at solving some of these problems? Where to start? Where can you begin on your own? And I started out talking a little bit about cloud efficiency rate. And so I want to go a little bit more deeper into what cloud efficiency rate is and how you can get started today. Go grab your spreadsheet, everybody's favorite FinOps tool in the world, as we know, and spend a little time calculating out how to get at cloud efficiency rate. So let's take a look at that. So this is a metric to quantify your cloud native business value. You're going to take your cost per dollar of revenue. So in this case, we're going to talk about a company that's got an annual revenue of about $100 million. And your annual cloud cost is about $20 million. And this gives us a ratio. Essentially, company A's cost per dollar of revenue is 0.02, right? Now we're going to convert that into a percentage. Area focus, put it at 80%. And that's a great place to start for thinking about how you want to calculate your cloud efficiency rate. Everyone should go out and spend a little time in Excel doing this. All right. With that, I want to wrap up. I want to encourage everyone on the next slide just to, if you want to see the links, be able to reach out and connect with me when I'm at FinOps X Barcelona. I would love to meet with you and spend time talking. I'm in the FinOps Slack all the time. Please reach out. I'm happy to always talk about anything in this great community.
Thank you, Erik, for the deep dive there and breakdown on that metric. Thanks for your nailed the time too. Thanks for apologies for the timer going off there over top of you, but you did great. And we'll have the recording of this available for folks in a couple days as well.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, JR.
Thanks, talk to you. All right, so another resource for all of you to track all these things that are happening. And let me tell you, one of the coolest things about the FinOps Foundation and my personal 5-year journey here is that now I wake up and things launch and I'm like, where did that come from? I didn't even know we were working on, say, that AI tracker that we launched earlier. I didn't hear about that till yesterday. Or last week, we heard that the federal government, the US DoD through the Pentagon has adopted FinOps, and things like this are just popping up all over the place. This, what's new in FinOps, is the spot for you to track those things. It covers framework updates, news, community events, training announcements, all sorts of things. So definitely check this out. It's also increasingly going to hit high-level tooling provider updates, so you've got a single place for you to figure out what is evolving in the vendor ecosystem as well. So we are now at a beautiful spot of having a locked calendar and agenda for FinOps X Barcelona. I keep saying that. FinOps X Europe in Barcelona. I want to highlight a couple of the great keynote speakers who are going to be up there covering items about scaling FinOps, about how integrating better billing data, implementing the broad expansion of FinOps into other areas of spend, FinOps intersecting with sustainability, some great talks coming up there. There's many, many more that hopefully you check out. And again, if you can't attend in person, totally get that. Things will be posted a few weeks after the event. But if you can make it in person, it's a chance to talk to all these people in the flesh. We'll also have more fantastic FinOps leaders from our governing board talking about the state of the industry and the evolution of the industry as it goes. Folks like these folks pictured here on the screen who are driving a lot of best practices, both as vendors and practitioners across the ecosystem. And another launch 3, it's another one that happened this morning. So the FinOps X app is now live. This is the app for those of you who are attending to get the agenda and to actually start booking access to Chalk Talks. I'm calling out Chalk Talks because although we have all the breakouts, which are the sessions where people talk at you, we have a small and limited number of Chalk Talks, which is sessions you sit in and have a collaborative conversation with a whiteboard. Those are a reservation system this time around due to high demand for those. So if you're coming to FinOps X Europe, please get this app going and select the breakouts you want to attend and then request access to the Chalk Talks you want to attend. I heard about this morning when I came online about 6 a.m. In the 2 hours before I woke up, there were already 850 sessions favorited and about, I think, over 100 plus Chalk Talk reservations requested. So definitely get in the app and start marking the sessions that you want to attend. Big shout out to Sam Benson and the team for putting this together. It's been a long effort, and we were glad to add it this year because we didn't have it at the San Diego conference. So this will be coming back for San Diego as well. So that's a conference coming up. You've heard enough about that. I'm not going to talk more about it, but want to talk about other opportunities for interacting with the community. We are really trying to up our game on regional and topical based community interaction points. So there are now, every week, there's a few of these happening. If you check out the events page, these are sessions that are almost like a Chalk Talk in the sense that we'll do like 10 minutes presentation at the beginning on some topic or level set on some announcements. And then it's about 45 minutes of discussion. They are geographically aligned for time zones. So, if you're in US West or UK, last night we had ones in Asia Pacific. There was an Australia one. There's one that's aligned to Japan. There's one that's aligned to Korea. But they are also topically based. So even if you're not in US West or if you're not in the UK or whichever one you're going, you can join those to talk about the topic. The topics are aligned to the themes that we cover at the conferences, like cloud sustainability or adopting FinOps or FinOps is everyone's job. There were ones for FinOps for AI recently. So check these out. This is the best way for you to interact. These are they're kind of like what the FinOps Foundation summits were in like 2019 and 2020, when you get like 20 folks on a call to have a conversation. So good place to engage with that. Big thank you. Always got to give a big shout out, gratitude to the FinOps Foundation team. This is the group that's dedicated to our program within the Linux Foundation. As I mentioned, we're all over the world. We're in 7 countries. This is the team that makes everything happen behind the scenes. And thank you all for the work. As always on the summits, extra special shout out to Suha Shim, who manages this Foundation Summit program, for making this easier and easier every month. I used to be panicked about summits, and this morning I woke up calmly and came down to do the summit because it was so well prepared with so many great speakers. I do want to call out an upcoming role that we have in the FinOps Foundation team. We are going to be opening, we just got governing board approval for the budget on this. We're going to be opening a principal product manager role for Focus. This is somebody who should be a career product manager. They need to have product management experience, and they need to have deep SME experience of the cloud billing data. Those two are the absolute critical items. It's not somebody who wants to get in product, and it's not a product person who wants to start to learn about cloud. We got to have both. This person's going to be helping drive forward and negotiate and navigate the complicated constituencies of Focus between practitioners and clouds and data generators, and help us come out with better releases, better scoping, and ultimately a better specification for everyone. So that will formally be opening hopefully in the next month or so, but we're working through the process to open that and that will be a Linux Foundation full-time employee. It is not a contract role. So if you know anybody, give me a shout for that. That'll be coming shortly. All right, we're at the end of the content, and now comes the fun part, which is the interactive part. We are taking November off of summits because we're all going to be in Barcelona for XE. Some of us are going to be in Chicago for Microsoft Ignite. Some of us are going to be at the Linux Foundation Member Summit in November. Then we've got reInvent. So there's a lot happening in November. The next FinOps Foundation Summit like this will be second week in December.
Thank you for watching. We hope to see you during our next virtual summit. In the meantime, check out previous summits or the rest of our YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.